All right. I think we are live. Um, should be live in our Facebook group, in our YouTube channel, as well as our or my LinkedIn profile. But if you guys can see this, I'm also on Instagram. So you guys can see this. If you guys can see me and you can hear me, do me a favor and drop just say live in the comments so that I know you can hear me. And if everything's working properly, then we will go ahead and get started here in a couple of minutes. All right, I'm just going to give everyone a little bit of time to sign on. And I'm also going to check on my end that all the setup is working properly. So a little bit of time to sign. Give me 1 second here and we'll get started. We'll go ahead and get started. There we go. All right. So I'm on YouTube. I'm on LinkedIn. And questions are already starting to come in. Cool. Hey, Josh, what's going on? It's been a long time, actually. It's crazy. Josh was one of my first bosses that I interned for when I was back in college, which was many, many years ago. Josh, hope you're doing well, man. Good to hear from you. All right. So it sounds like people can hear me. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. So guys, welcome. For those of you who are not familiar, my name is Sam, the founder of Wall Street Mastermind. What we do is we help college, master's, and college and master's students, both master's in finance and MBA students, break into investment banking. And we also help some recent graduates that are trying to lateral into investment banking. So that's what we do here at Wall Street Mastermind. And we've had tremendous success over the last 4+ years. We've maintained an over 90% success rate in placing our clients into investment banking, which is pretty much unheard of. And a lot of people don't really believe us when we say that we have an over 90% success rate. So we actually also have a money back guarantee that basically says if you work with us and you do the work that we ask you to do and you still don't get into banking, then we'll refund you all of your money. Okay, so nobody else in our industry is doing this. And so we know a thing or two about just how to get people into this industry. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the summer 2023 recruiting process, which is kind of the main thing that's going on right now in the investment banking recruiting side of things. So summer 2022 recruiting has pretty much wrapped up for the most part. If you're a junior and you're still looking for a summer internship right now, it is very late. It's still possible, but you're most likely going to have to fall back on one of these smaller firms that are out there. All the big reputable banks are pretty much done recruiting at this point. All the big reputable banks have started recruiting for summer 2023. So they're talking to current sophomores. Okay, so if you're a sophomore right now and you're still recruiting, or not still recruiting, you probably just started recruiting. A lot of the bulge bracket, I would say almost all the bulge bracket banks, maybe with the exception of UBS, and pretty much every single elite boutique bank. So like pretty much the top 20 banks, they all have applications open already. And then some of them have already started giving offers. Although a lot of those offers have been for diversity candidates who tend to go first. But regardless, some offers have started to go out. And then there's also probably like, I don't know, 2 to 3 dozen middle market banks that have also opened up their applications as well. Okay, so long story short, things are heating up very, very quickly. Our clients so far, just for the summer 2023 cycle, they've already gotten offers from KKR for the private equity group, Lazard, Bank of America, Guggenheim, Jefferies, Piper Sandler, and I might be missing a few, but those are the ones that are off the top of my head. Okay, so Goldman Sachs, which is the one that I know a lot of people care about, they opened their applications on April 1st. For those of you who are not aware, they also highly recommend that people apply before So it was either April 7th or April 10th, but they want you to apply within the first 7 to 10 days, even though technically the deadline for their application that they posted is much later. I want to say it's like June or July or September or something, but like that's not actually the real deadline. Like they're gonna review applications right away. They're gonna give out interviews right away, and if you don't submit your application for them, basically in the next couple of days, like you're probably not going to be in the running. Okay, so just FYI on that one because I know a lot of people care about that. So anyway, the most amazing recruiting is well underway. If you're currently a sophomore, you need to be paying attention. If you hopefully you're ready. If you're not ready, then now is the time for you to be figuring out like what you can be doing to become ready in the shortest amount of time possible. Okay, because like this recruiting window goes fast, and once it closes, then like you're done, right? And also like the way the summer internship process typically works is that the top firms will typically finish filling up their classes first. So like the longer it takes you to actually get the offer, typically the worse the offer is going to be, right? So like the elite boutiques tend to finish the earliest, then the bulge bracket banks typically finish shortly after them, and then after that you're left with the middle market banks, and then like say like going into junior year if you're still recruiting, you you're probably not getting into a bulge bracket or elite boutique bank. All right, so you need to aim to, if you want like a top 20 bank, you should be aiming to secure an offer either before the end of your sophomore year or before like the end of sophomore summer for sure. Okay, last year like some of the bulge bracket banks didn't recruit for summer 2022 until like JP Morgan for the last couple of years didn't open their application until June 1st. Goldman Sachs didn't open their application until July 1st. And it's like you still have the summer to recruit for them, but like this year, JP Morgan pulled it all the way up to February 1st. So their application has been open for more than 2 months. And then Goldman Sachs, they pulled their application up to April 1st from July 1st. So JP Morgan moved it up by 4 months. Goldman Sachs moved it up by 3 months. And so I don't expect them to be recruiting like deep into the summer is my point. Okay. So, but yeah, like, so elite boutiques finish first, bulge bracket banks follow, then middle market banks. And like, if you're getting like into junior year, like halfway through junior year, whatever, and you're still recruiting, like even the middle market banks will be done as well. Okay. So long story short, time is of the essence. All right. So today, I'm just going to be doing like a Q&A. I do these once a month. For, those of you who, aren't in our program or whatever, like we have like weekly office hours in the program where like we answer people's questions and stuff. Obviously I don't have as much time to do this for people who are not in our program because those people are like my first priority. But I do try to do this once a month for you guys. So like if you guys have any questions about the recruiting process, about your specific situation, about just whatever it is that you want to know, feel free to just drop a comment down below. You can either, again, I'm on my YouTube channel. I'm on my LinkedIn profile. I'm in our private Facebook group. I'm also on Instagram. So I'm going to be checking all 4 places at the same time. So if you have a question, drop it in, and then I'll try to get through as many of these as I can in the next hour or so. Okay, so I'll be on here for about an hour. So let me just start going through these. Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna start on Instagram actually. So on Instagram, I think I saw a question earlier. Depeche asks, do you help international students as well? Depeche, yes, we do help international students. In fact, you go on our website and you can look at all of our case studies. We have a page specifically with like all the international students that we've helped. If you are an international student, the thing to be aware of is that one, it is harder to get in as an international student. Okay, so like if you don't have a US citizenship or you don't have a green card, but you're going to school here in the States and you're trying to get a job here in the States after you graduate, there are firms that will sponsor visas, but typically it's all the biggest firms. So it's like subset of the elite boutiques, subset of the bulge bracket banks, and then maybe like some percentage of the middle market banks. Like I'm talking like the top 50 banks out there, maybe about half of them will sponsor. So you have like a smaller pool to choose from. But also like for them to hire you, you're going to have to be better than the other candidates who are just who are already US citizens or green card holders. Because if you're just like about the same as everyone else, then it's more trouble for them to go and actually like hire you, right? Because they have to like invest time and money and human resources into sponsoring your visa. And like, you need to give them a good reason to do that. So long story short, the bar for international students is going to be a little bit higher. You're going to have to be better at networking. You have a better resume, better at networking, better at interviewing, just like better across the board. And so that's where the preparation comes in, right? The other thing to know about international students is because of what I just said, because you're pretty much only eligible for the bigger banks that actually sponsor, and because not all banks sponsor, so you have a smaller subset to choose from, you're usually as an international student, you're under even more of a time crunch. So meaning like, if you come to us too late, if you come to us like second semester junior year, for example, or even first semester junior year, I would consider it to be late. But second semester junior year is basically like impossible because all these banks are done hiring at that point. All the ones that are sponsored anyway. First semester junior year, like I said, most of the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks, if not all of them, will be done. So that like eliminates a huge portion of the banks that actually would have sponsored in the first place. So like we do help international students, but like if you're international, I mean, in general, we encourage people to like start as early as possible anyway. But if you're an international student, it's especially true for you. Okay, so you got to start ASAP. All right, so just keep that in mind. Another question, Jimmy Hennessy. So I have an IB interview tomorrow night. What is the best article / crash course to look at right now? Yeah, so Jimmy, I don't think there's like one article that's gonna prepare you overnight for it. Like I don't know, how much preparation you've already done, where you at behaviorally or technically, but I guess if you really only have tonight, what you could do is we have a free course on our website. So if you just go to like wallstreetmastermind.com, wallstmastermind.com, and then at the top in the drop down menu, there's a free course. And actually, if you're on YouTube or maybe even LinkedIn, I'm not sure if LinkedIn shows it, but if you're on my YouTube channel, yeah, I'll just go to my website. Like there's a free course on the drop down menu. And so if you click on that, you can opt in for our free course. And inside the free course, we have like 7 hours worth of trainings on all the different aspects of investment banking and recruiting. We cover like how to write a great resume. We cover like, how to we have like a networking training in there. We have a training on like behavioral interviews and like how to craft your story. We have a 2-hour training. This is probably what you're looking for. We have a 2-hour technical training. This is a workshop that I did that covers all the technical concepts you need to know in just 2 hours. Now, obviously, it's like, more of a high level overview of all the concepts. But like, if you're talking about a crash course, like this is pretty much what a crash course is, right? Like it'll walk you through the 3 statements: accounting, valuation, M&A, LBOs. So yeah, like if I only have one night, like that's what I would go over and try to understand as much of it as possible. Okay, so hopefully that helps. But yeah, I mean, typically, honestly, you don't want to wait until like the day before your interview to start prepping, which usually if you do that, more often than not, it's not going to be enough time, right? Hopefully, if you do well tomorrow and you get invited to Super Day, then that buys you a few more days to get even more up to speed. All right. So, okay, let me come over to some of these other questions on the other platforms. So let's start on LinkedIn. So Drew asks opinions on Lincoln, Chicago. I mean, I don't have like a huge opinion. Lincoln, I would say, is like, a middle market bank, right? So they're a solid bank, but I wouldn't consider them to be, I don't think they're like, I wouldn't even put them in like the top 50, I would say, so like, maybe they're in like the top 75, top 100. I don't know. Chicago, I think that might be where they're headquartered, if I'm not mistaken. So usually like being in the headquarter of a firm is a good thing because that's where like most of the senior bankers sit, and that's where you're going to get the most deal flow. So, but other than that, like, I mean, it's a solid shot. Depending on like obviously what other what other options you have or what other offers you have, right? Like I would certainly take probably all of the elite boutiques and bulge bracket banks over, and there's like, a lot of middle market banks that I would consider over Lincoln as well. So, but it depends on if you have the opportunity to interview with those firms, and also get an offer, obviously, right? Let's see. Let me go to the next question. Gustav asks, "Hi, I've done an internship at a asset management firm in Hong Kong, planning to do my master in Europe. Would you say my odds to get an internship is good or bad? Have a bachelor in commerce major in economics and soon starting a master's in economics." Um, Let me see here. Let me take a quick look at your profile. Got it. So you're from Australia. Got it. The Gold Coast. I just watched a Netflix show that was based in Australia. Byron Bay. One of those reality TV shows that was fun, I guess. So if you're doing asset management internship in Hong Kong, getting a master's in Europe, odds of getting an internship, good or bad? I mean, look, that's kind of hard to answer. Like, depends on like where you're getting your master's from, right? Like, if it's a good school, I would say like it's pretty common for people to recruit into banking, especially in Europe, from a master's in finance degree, right? So I don't know what kind of master's you're doing. I don't know what school you're doing it at, but if it's a good school, it's a relevant master's degree like a MSF or an MBA, then I would say like, yeah, I absolutely should be able to get into banking. But there's so many other variables too, like your GPA, your work experience. If the only internship you have is like an asset management internship, that's good, but like I would say it's still not like the most relevant thing you could do, right? Ideally, you want to have some internships that are like where you're doing like more transactional work. So like M&A type work, for example, right? You could work at like a small boutique investment bank or a private equity firm or something like that, or even like equity research or corporate development or like valuation. Like I would consider almost all of those types of roles to probably be even more relevant than asset management. I guess depending on what type of asset management, but like, uh, but yeah, like I mean, I think it's certainly doable, right? But you got to play your cards right. Like it's never going to be easy. It's very competitive, right? So you got to make sure that you check all the boxes, right? And also like make sure you're networking, make sure your interview skills are sharp, your behavioral skills, your stories that you want to tell, your technical skills, all of those things matter. Okay. Big Sit on from Claremont asks, what's the acceptance rates like? Big Sit, what are you referring to? Acceptance rate for what? Acceptance rate for investment banks? Or if you're talking about like acceptance rate for investment banks, I would say like the top banks, like the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks, I would say the acceptance rate is probably between like 1% to 2%. So like, for example, Goldman Sachs, they actually like released this information in their investor presentation last year when I looked at it. So I think for like the summer 2019 class, I think they had over 27,000 applicants. I want to say just for the investment banking division. Firm wide, they have like over 200,000 applications, but that includes like all the other divisions that front office, mid office, back office. Like a lot of that's not relevant for us, right? But like if you're just talking about investment banking, I think they had like 27,000 applicants or in that ballpark, and they hired less than 500 people, right? And so I remember doing the math; it was like 1.7 or 1.8%, and that's Goldman Sachs, right? I think Jefferies, which is more of a middle market bank, I would say they're like in the top 20, top 15, top 20. So slightly easier to get in. They also released their statistics, and it was like around 3%, right? So like individually, like each of these banks don't hire a lot of people, right? Collectively, I think obviously like every person they hire can only take an offer at one place. So like the overall acceptance rate is probably higher than just 1 or 2%, but it's still not going to be like super high, right? It's just like when you think about, to put that into context, like if you think about degree of difficulty, like if you want to get into like Harvard for undergrad, I think Harvard is like 5 or 6% acceptance rate in any given year, right? And nobody thinks it's easy to get in Harvard, right? So this is like even more selective than trying to break into like an Ivy League school, and the caliber of the competition is high because a lot of people, like your primary competition is also people that already got into a lot of those top schools. So it's like you're applying one filter on top of another, right? That's why it's so competitive. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me go to the next question. So on YouTube, it's Ethan asks, "Hey Sam, what about Canadian bulge brackets? Have you helped students get into Canadian investment banks?" Yeah, we have helped people get into Canadian investment banks. We've helped people get into like BMO, TD, CIBC. So like some of the big five banks that are up there. And then, yeah, like again, if you go on our website, there's like on the drop down, there's like a student interviews page. So if you go there, there's like all these different categories that you can click into depending on like what you're looking for. So one of the categories is like people applying outside the US. So we have like people that we've helped that were applying in Europe, people that we helped in Canada, people that have recruited for Asia. Most of our students are recruiting in the US. Obviously, like the US is the biggest market, but we have helped people in those other markets as well. And there are like some nuanced differences, but like for the most part, honestly, like the preparation process is very similar, if not the same. Like you need all the same skills. You need to have a good resume. You need to like be good at networking so you can get those referrals, and you need to have good stories for your behavioral interviews, and you need to know your technicals, right? And like those are the four things that you need, and those are the four things that we always work on. Okay. Yves on YouTube asks, "What advice do you have for MBA grads looking to pivot into IB?" So typically, if you're an MBA student trying to break into IB, then I would say usually what you should have done is you need to recruit for the summer associate internship between your first and second year in business school. And then like the recruiting for that happens during the first semester of your first year in business school. So like right when you get to business school, you pretty much have to be ready to recruit. And so if you didn't do that, then it gets kind of tricky because they primarily give their full-time offers for associate positions to people that did a summer internship. Like that's already true at the undergrad level, but at the MBA level, it's even more true. Like they almost never give offers to people that didn't first intern with them, because at the associate level, it's like that's more of like a lifetime, or like that's more like a career track, like people that want to be a lifetime banker type of thing, right? And so like it's a much bigger investment on their part. I would say if you already graduated from an MBA and you're still trying to get into banking, depending on what you're doing now, like if you're in an industry that's like still somewhat related to finance, but it's just like not investment banking, you might be able to like lateral. Like, so we've helped people lateral into banking from like accounting, valuation, corporate development, sales and trading. I don't know if I already said valuation. And so like even like FP&A, like so like people that are again kind of working in this finance realm, but not in like high finance, not in investment banking yet. It is possible to lateral in, but typically if you do that, you're going to start at like a smaller firm, and then like so it might be like a regional bank or something like that, just to like get your foot in the door, because they're less strict about their hiring criteria. And then like once you get that job and you have your foot in the door and you get like 6 to 12 months of experience under your belt, then you can always lateral to a bigger firm. So like we have clients, like I had a client who started in FP&A, then he lateraled into, we helped him lateral into a regional bank, and he was there for maybe a year or less. And then recently he just lateraled to Guggenheim, which is a elite boutique bank, probably like a top 12, top 13 bank, right? So that's like really, really good, right? So he was very happy about that. So that's probably like the path that you're gonna have to take. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's see what else. What other questions do you guys have? Feel free to drop more questions in the comments if you have them. Let me come back to Instagram. Daniel, who asks, "I got a city offer. Do you think I can get Goldman to accelerate for me or not?" Yeah, it's possible. You should definitely ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. I've seen Goldman accelerate for some of our clients, and then I've also seen them not accelerate for other clients. I think a lot of times it comes down to how much they like you, how well have you networked there, do you have people that are like working on the inside that are like just really pushing for you, Also, like how much influence does that person have if you do have someone pushing for you. So yeah, it really just comes down to like how important of a candidate you are to them. But you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, so you should definitely ask. You got nothing to lose, right? Justin asks, "Is Wall Street prep good?" I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, technically that's a competitor, so I don't know if like I'm the best source to answer that question, but um, I'll give a fair answer. Like I think Wall Street Prep is like one of the two top companies out there in terms of like financial modeling courses, right? Like it's either them or it's Breaking in Wall Street, right? Like I would say they probably have the two best financial modeling courses out there if that's what you want to learn, right? I will say though, also, and a lot of my clients know this, and a lot of people that have been following me for a while know this, but like I think that a lot of people take financial modeling courses prematurely because what you're learning with the financial modeling course is how to do the job, which is actually very different from how to get the job. Like, so there's like two different skill sets fundamentally. Like, in terms of how to get the job, again, you need those things that I talked about, which is like having a good resume and building it up with relevant experiences and networking with bankers and knowing how to get referrals from them and having good stories for your behaviorals and knowing how to like explain the technical concepts, sure, but like knowing how to do that verbally, right? So like especially at these big banks, at the bulge bracket, elite boutique, and even the middle market banks, like I'm talking the top 50 banks out there that most people want to work for. We've placed people into like every single bulge bracket and elite boutique bank and a majority of the middle market banks as well. And not a single one of them had to build a financial model during the interview process. Like that is just not part of the process. That's not what they ask you to do during these interviews. So if you're taking these financial modeling courses and you are like a lot of times what you're like learning is like, oh, how do I link everything up together properly? And like what Excel formula should I use to like, what are like V lookup, like H lookup, index match, like all these things. Just like that's great. You're gonna use that on the job, but like it's not gonna help you get the job. And a lot of people they spend so much time learning that like they take these like Wall Street Prep or Breaking Wall Street financial modeling courses that are like over 100 hours long, just like 100 hours plus of you watching videos of this guy like moving around in a spreadsheet on your screen. That's not going to teach you how to verbally explain these concepts in a clear and concise manner during the interview, which is what you are going to be asked to do, right? So the way we like to train our clients on like their technicals is like we tell them like you need to get to the point where you can explain these concepts to your brother who's in the sixth grade who knows nothing about finance. And if you can do that, then you'll do just fine in an interview, right? And so like the financial modeling courses just don't teach you how to do that. So like I think the right time to take a financial modeling course is after you've gotten the offer, right? And then like you're still gonna have like months leading up to your internship, like 6 to 12 months, depending on how soon you get your offer. And at that point, you have the offer. And if you want to take a financial modeling course to make sure you're like prepared for the job, then I think that's a good use of your time. But until then, you have so little time to prepare for recruiting already as is. You can't be spending time on things that aren't really going to matter or don't really matter in the near term. You got to spend all of your time on the things that are actually going to move the needle for you, right? So that's what I would say about that. Jay Bennis one says, what about MS? What about MS? I'm not sure what you're really asking. So you might have to clarify your question. Mohammed asks, Sam, for an MSF student, I can't apply to the summer analyst programs as assessed for undergrads graduating 2023 or 2024. Okay. I don't know. Is there a question or is there a statement? You should be able to apply. Okay. So the thing is like the MSF is more common in Europe and it's not like a very common thing here in the States yet. But I know for a fact that if you're an MSF student, you're not in like the associate recruiting pool. You're in the analyst recruiting pool. Like they won't hire you as an associate. So you have to apply for the summer analyst and the analyst jobs. Okay. Even if it says undergraduates, like I don't think they like prevent you from applying. So you should just apply. And Like, and you should also network with the people there, especially since you're not an undergrad student, you're an MSF student. So you have to explain your situation to them sometimes. But I'm like absolutely certain that you should be going for the summer analyst program, not for the summer associate programs. Okay. Muhammad, we could talk more about that offline too. Like, I think I already messaged you about this earlier. So, um, Preston asks, how does IB culture / concentrations vary between East and West Coast? Not sure what you mean by concentration, but I would say like, so I mean, I worked on the West Coast, right? But like, what you need to know is just that like in New York, you're gonna have all the groups there. Well, that's the headquarters, right? So you're gonna have all the groups. Whereas in the other regional offices, whether it's on the West Coast, in SF, in the Bay Area, in Los Angeles, or even in Chicago or Houston, like those are where some of the major regional offices are. Most of the regional offices are only going to have like select groups, like they're going to cover like a very specific industry, for example, right? So like on the West Coast, like typically in the Bay Area, it's going to be primarily technology, and then there's also going to be like a little bit of healthcare, right? And then like if you're in Los Angeles, it's usually like media because Hollywood's down there. Also like gaming and lodging. So like like casinos or in Vegas, like that's covered by gaming and lodging. And I think like some real estate groups, right? And so like it's just like a different coverage, right? Like you're gonna focus and specialize on those specific industries if you work for those offices. And in terms of culture, like I mean, I think like New York is always going to be like the most fast paced, right? Because it's New York. In the Bay Area, I mean, I can speak to the Bay Area, especially because I worked in the Bay and we're covering mostly technology clients. Like, it might be like we don't wear ties to work, for example, right? Whereas like I know in New York, like a lot of people will wear like full suit and tie and whatever. Like it's not as like stuffy, right? Like and a lot of times like the clients that we're meeting, they're like these tech company CEOs and CFOs, and they go to work in like hoodies and sweaters and whatever, right? And so like sometimes like we'll go to client meetings and we'll still wear the full suit and tie and whatever, especially if it's like an important meeting, board meeting, or bake off or whatever. But like, yeah, in general, I think like there's like minor differences like that, but no matter what, it's banking. So like it's still very intense. You're still gonna work a lot of hours, still a very demanding job. Um, I don't think like most of those things actually change, whether you're on the East Coast or the West Coast. Okay. So I think the bigger thing is just like what industries do you want to focus on? I think like if you apply for New York, it's a pro and a con. Like the fact that they have all the groups, most of the time you're going to be recruiting for like just like a generalist position. But then once you get the offer, then you have to go through like a placement process to get matched up with one of the groups. And you may or may not end up in a group that you actually want, right? Versus like if you are going for the regional office, like you know exactly what group you're interviewing for. So that can be both like a good and a bad thing. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. Dhruv Patel asks, what undergrad school would be best for IB, Middlebury, IU Kelly, Wake Forest, or Babson? I think amongst those, like if you go to Kelly and you can get into their investment banking workshop, that would probably be the best option. But like if you can't get into the investment banking workshop, like basically if you get an investment banking workshop, like their placement rate is like either like it's like very close to 100%. So if you get into the IU investment banking workshop, you essentially go to like a target school. But like if you don't get into the investment banking workshop, then you basically go to like a total non-target school. So it's like kind of a night and day difference. And so like we've worked with some IU students, like they're all like people that try to get into investment banking workshop and couldn't get in. And then so like they need more help, right? Because the IB workshop there is very, very selective. I think like I forgot what the acceptance rate was, but like there's like 200 plus applicants every year, I think. And you have to like take a class, get at least like a B or B plus to even qualify. And a lot of people don't get that in the class. And then after that, you have to go through like a whole interview process. Okay. Otherwise, like if you don't get into IU Kelly, I would say out of the remaining, like I don't know, they're all like maybe Middlebury. I mean that's a good liberal arts school. But I know they're like we placed clients from Middlebury into IB before. And so I don't know. I mean, if those are the only four schools that you're considering, then that's probably what I would say. But like, honestly, like you can get into banking from any of those schools. Like none of them are really like I wouldn't really consider any of them target schools, but you can still get in from all of them. Like as long as you play your cards right? Like when I say like we have an over 90% of Wall Street National, like 35% of our students go to non-target schools, 20% of our students go to semi-target schools. So only 45% of our students, so less than half, actually go to top schools, right? And so like that's probably pretty surprising for most people, but like we know, like we've seen time and time again that it's not. It does help to go to the like target schools, and you do have more opportunities, but it doesn't mean that if you don't, then you can't get it. You can absolutely still get it. Okay. Um, Thoughts on Baruch College for breaking investment banking? Yeah, I mean, like again, not really a target school, but it is right there in New York, and I know they do have like a pretty solid finance program. And I know there are plenty of people that break in from Baruch College. So yeah, it can be done. It can be done. Absolutely. Thoughts on FP&A being a starting point to eventually get into IB? FP&A is probably not the best way to start if you want to get into IB. I mean, you can go from FP&A into IB, but there are a lot of other more relevant industries or jobs that you can start with within finance. Again, you want to be doing like more transactional type work. So like even at a small PE firm or hedge fund or family office or I don't know, equity research, valuation, like these jobs where you're actually having to like analyze a company and like value the business because that's like essentially a big part of what you'll be doing in banking, right? FP&A, you're doing like budgeting and forecasting and like actual to comparing like the variance between like your actuals to your plan, like stuff like that. That's like not really the most relevant thing for banking. Okay. Our full-time position for 2023 the same timeline as internships. I'm graduating spring 2023. No, full-time positions recruit typically at the end of summer 2022. So basically what will happen is like at the end of summer 2022, they are going to first give offers to their summer 2022 interns, the ones that they like. And then some of them will fill up their entire class, which is the 2022 interns. But if they have any spots available, or if they have any spots left that don't get filled by the interns, then they'll recruit for full-time 2023. So that will usually happen at like, early to mid-August. So you like, if you want to recruit for full-time, you have to be ready by that time. And you also might have to like start networking before that time even. Okay. Let's see here. Also, how does full-time recruitment differ from recruitment for internships? Yeah, full-time recruitment is like a lot harder because, like I said, there's a lot fewer jobs. Right? Like 80 to 90% of the offers have already gone to the summer interns. And so you're really just like gunning for the last like 10 to 20% of the jobs. And also, you're still going to be competing against people that already did a summer internship in investment banking. And maybe they're just trying to like leverage the summer internship into like an offer, full-time offer at an even better bank. So typically, like the expectation like for full-time candidates is that you're also expected to know a little bit more, right? But it can be done. Like I don't know what you're doing over the summer. It sounds like maybe you didn't get a summer internship in banking. That's why you're asking about full-time, Austin. And so like depending on what you're doing over the summer, you can also DM me and let me know more specifics about yourself if you want to. Like if you don't have an IB internship for the summer, you at least want to do like just the most relevant thing you can get for the summer, and then try to leverage that to recruit for full time. Okay. Modern with luxury as PJT/Evercore interview advice. Any challenging interview questions that tend to come up? Yeah, I mean PJT and Evercore have some of the most technical interviews out there. I mean, just like elite boutiques in general tend to have some of the most technical interviews, and so like you're gonna have to know your technicals really, really well. And I'm not talking just like definitional questions like, oh, how do you do a DCF or whatever. Like a lot of times they're actually asking you like more advanced questions, even like application questions where they're very open-ended and require like a good amount of interpretation on your part. And so it's like stuff that you can't just like memorize by brute force beforehand, if that makes sense, right? I'm also pulling up like interview questions database. So like we have a database that our clients kind of contribute questions to. Like every time they do an interview, they'll come and contribute questions that they got from those firms into the centralized database. So we have like, I don't know, I think, yeah, we have like almost 250 entries in here now in terms of like questions from these firms. So like if I look at like Evercore, let me just skim this and see like what are some of the tougher questions. Blah, 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 blah. So for example, so like, like how would you value a biotech company? And then you talk about like, okay, the different valuation methodologies. And it'll follow that up with like, okay, so how would you build a revenue model for a drug? And how would you consider the target population? Like that was a question that one of our clients got, right? Another client, let's say, what else? Leverage ratio is 10x, cost of debt is 10%. What's the interest coverage ratio? So this is like testing that, both with the definition of those ratios, but also you're able to do some mental math. Right? That one's probably maybe not that hard actually. One of our clients got like a case study with like full accretion dilution calculations with both debt and equity funding. So like a lot of these case study type questions, because they're case studies, like you can't really prepare for it beforehand, right? What else? If a company A is trading at $25 with 1 million shares outstanding, net income of $4 million, and they want to acquire company B with 500,000 shares outstanding at a price of $15 per share with 40% equity and 60% debt, and a 6% interest rate, what would be the accretion dilution? So like they give you all the inputs and assumptions, and they want you to like do a paper accretion dilution model, basically, right? What else? So like anyway, I mean like there's plenty of these, right? Like I can keep going, but the point is like I don't know. You have to know all of your technicals inside out, no matter what. Okay, and hopefully also not just by like memorizing like exact answers from questions in like the 400 questions guide or something, because they're not going to do that. They're not going to ask you like just those exact same questions. Okay. Is it true that for junior year summer internships, the recruiting process now starts in sophomore year? Yeah, it's absolutely true. Just ask all the sophomores right now. The people that are graduating class of 2024, they are going through the summer 2023 recruiting process as we speak. They're graduating in 2024, which means summer 2023 is their internship. And right now we're in early 2022, and some offers have already started to go out, right? So that's absolutely true. All right, let me come back to YouTube. George Aaron asks, I got invited for a small networking event through my school for a middle market bank tomorrow. It's pretty casual and at a bar. I'm a junior and don't have a summer internship in IB because I realized that I wanted to do it too late, but trying to recruit for full-time positions after graduation. Any networking tips for the event? Like specifically, what are some examples of questions that I should ask / avoid? Yeah, so with these networking events, I mean, it's like more social and it's like at a bar, but I mean, don't get it twisted. Like you're definitely still being evaluated. So like first thing, like I would not go and like, drink too much or drink at all. In fact, and like if you get drunk and you like start being unprofessional or whatever, like that's not like where you want to, that's not how you want to represent yourself. Right. Also at a lot of these networking events, like a lot of the times, there's going to be the ratio is going to be pretty bad. Like there's going to be a bunch of students and like very few bankers, right? So like if you might find yourself in like a lot of these like group situations where it's like 3-on-1 or 4-on-1 or just like it's very rare for you to get to have one-on-one conversations with bankers at these types of events. So you're gonna have to like know how to operate in a group setting. Like when is it okay for you to like basically you don't want to like dominate the conversation. You want to like also give other people opportunity to speak, but like you don't want to be that guy that's just like a wallflower, like standing like on the side and not like saying anything at all, right? So you want to like chime in when it makes sense to, and when you have something interesting to say. But like in terms of the questions that you ask, like it's got to be like within the flow of the conversation, right? Depending on where the conversation is going, like you want to be thinking about follow-up questions that you can ask as other people are saying things, right? Like that's honestly like the best thing to do. Um, Otherwise, like honestly, like it's less about like what questions you ask. Like you can prepare questions, but most of the questions that you're going to prepare are like pretty standard canned questions that most people are probably or like questions that they probably heard like hundreds of times, right? Um, like as you can ask them about their own personal background, how they got to where they are today. You can ask them about the job itself and the day to day of the job, right? You can ask them for their opinion on certain things. Like, and again, like it's really hard to like predetermine these questions because part of it also depends on the banker's background, right? Like, if a banker has worked at multiple different banks, like I might ask them about like how the experience is different between the different banks they've worked at, right? Or if a banker is an analyst versus a managing director, I'd probably ask them different questions also, right? And so like it really just depends. Okay, I know that's like maybe not a very satisfying answer, but like if what you're looking for is like a list of 10 questions that you should just like go and ask at every single networking conversation, and then that's gonna like magically get you the result that you want. Like that's actually just not how networking works. And that's how a lot of people think about it. And so like when they get in these networking conversations and they go on these networking calls, they just ask the same list of questions to every single banker. Like that's what you do if you don't want to be successful with networking. Okay. So like if you want to be successful in networking, you have to like adapt to the person you're talking to, and you have to like have an actual conversation. It has to feel organic. So the best way to do that is to like ask them a question, they answer it, and then like you ask a follow-up question based on whatever answer they just gave you. Right. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Having some issues with the Instagram side of things, but it keeps saying pause due to poor connection. I don't know if you guys can actually still hear me. If you can still hear me okay on Instagram, can you guys just drop a comment down below and say live so I know you can still hear me? Because like my Instagram app is bugging out and it's saying it's paused due to poor connection like every 3 seconds. So but Harris asked, how do you sign up? Casing asked, how do we join your group/course? Yeah, if you guys want to like work with us, then it's by application only, because like we can't work with every single person, nor do we want to. Like we only work with people that we're confident we can help, because like if we feel confident enough offering you the money back guarantee, then that's when we'll invite you into the program. If we don't feel confident enough offering you the money back guarantee, then we don't want to work with you. Okay, so it's by application only. So you're gonna have to go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Okay, it's the streets abbreviated to ST. So it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. I'm just gonna type this URL in here, so in case you guys can't hear me. All right, so I would go there, and then like you can basically book a time to speak with our team, and also it'll ask you to fill out like a short application, and then we'll hop on a call with you. We'll ask you some questions, learn more about your specific situation, what your goals are, what are your challenges, what are you looking for help with, and then based on what you tell us, we'll assess your situation and we'll give you our very honest feedback and opinion about what your chances are and whether we can get you this job. And if we think we can, then like I said, we offer a money back guarantee and we'll invite you into the program. And then at that point, if you still want to work with us, then we're happy to work with you. Okay. And if we can't work with you, or at a minimum, we'll still just like give you advice on what we think you should do, or what we would do if we were in your shoes. Okay. So either way, like you have nothing to lose. Like I highly encourage everyone to just at a minimum book that call with us and just to talk to us, and then kind of take it from there. Okay. Hidana asks, would you advise to do 2 to 3 relevant internships in your final year plus studying? If you're a third-year student, I like to graduate with more than just one internship on my resume. Yeah, I mean, Hidana, like obviously the more relevant experience you have, the better, right? But also like if you're already a junior, I guess like I don't have all the context. Like, do you already if your goal is to get into investment banking after you graduate, my first question would be like, what are you going to be doing your junior summer? Do you have like an investment banking internship lined up, or do you have some other type of internship lined up? Like depending on what that is, like I would approach things differently, right? So maybe you can give me some context on what you're trying to accomplish ultimately, and then also like what are you going to be doing this upcoming summer, and then I can give you a better answer. All right. Seha asks, what do you think of getting FINRA or relevant certificates as a sophomore at college? Is it worth it? No, I don't think it's really worth it. I don't think you need to do that, and I don't like the vast majority of our clients that have gotten offers like did not do that, and so I just don't think you need to. And I don't think it's best use of your time either, especially as a sophomore. As a sophomore, you need to be focused on recruiting for your junior summer internship. There's just so much stuff that you need to do for that you don't have time to do the things that are not absolutely necessary. Okay, so that's the main thing. So I wouldn't worry about that right now. Jose asks, my undergraduate was very unorthodox. I did bad my transfer year in Stony Brook, easy school recs. I messed up here. Had an accident and medically withdrew from senior fall and spring. I ended up taking all my econ classes, core plus electives. Graduated with a 2.91 GPA and 3.45 major GPA in August of 2020. Wasn't able to get any jobs. Now I'm applying to various MSFs to rebrand myself. I know this is pretty tough and I'm very late in the whole process. Any advice? I took all my major classes just in senior year. Okay. I mean, if you go the MSF route, then my advice would be like, first, make sure you research the MSFs that you're applying to. Not all MSFs are created equal. Some are better at placing people into investment banking than others. You want to like look at their track record, look at where their past graduates have gone, where they've been getting hired from. A lot of them will publish this information in some sort of report on their website. But if they don't, then at a minimum, you should like ask their career center or their admissions office or whatever, and just like they should, if they're not willing to provide you with this type of information, then that's a red flag in the first place, right? The other thing is like I think there's an article by eFinancial Careers. If you just Google it, like best MSFs to get into investment banking or something, like I know they have a list where they actually like sorted through, I don't know, tens of thousands of resumes in their database, and they looked at like which MSFs had the most bankers. And so like that's another useful data point, right? But applying to the right school is important. Also, most MSFs are 1 year programs. There are a few that might be 1.5 or 2 years. Honestly, like if you can manage like 1.5 or 2 years, it's going to be a lot better than 1 year, because what that allows you to do is it allows you to do a summer internship between your first and second year in MSF. Okay. So like, because if you start at MSF in the fall right now, fall of 2022, then like, if it's a 1 year program, you're going to be graduating in 2023. If you're graduating in 2023, then like the last summer before you graduate is still going to be the summer of 2022, which is this upcoming summer. And so that's still the summer when you should have been doing a summer internship that converts into full time. But it's too late to recruit for that summer now, at least at the reputable banks, right? But if you're like doing a 2 year MSF, then maybe you start in the fall of 2022 and you graduate in 2024, which means you can still recruit for some of 2023 internships. Right. So like timeline is important. You got to factor that. You got to take that into account and factor that in. But I was like, those two things are probably like the most important things to think about right now up front as you're selecting the program. Okay. Or maybe, I don't know, if you're not starting the program in the fall, maybe you're starting the following year. I'm not sure. Like, so, but regardless, you got to like basically calculate the timeline and see what makes sense for you. And like, if this is like too complex or it doesn't really make sense, and like, I would actually encourage you to just like reach out to us and, ask us whatever other questions you have, and we can further clarify for you. Just like DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. Or you can like book a call with our team, and, again, wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. And, we can talk to you. So I'll drop the link here again. wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Okay. All right. What else? Who else's questions? Let me see. Let me check all the websites and see if there are any other questions that people have. I don't see anything on LinkedIn at the moment. I don't, do I see anything on Facebook? Nothing on Facebook. And then where is YouTube? Where's my YouTube? Oh, there's YouTube. Are there any questions on YouTube? No, I don't see anything else on YouTube. Okay, and then lastly, Instagram. Does anyone else have any questions? I have maybe 5 more minutes, so happy to stay on a little bit longer if people have more questions, or if no one else has questions, then we can also just wrap up a few minutes early. That's fine too. Okay, Andrew on LinkedIn has a question. Senior in high school here, what should I focus on while going to college next year to reach investment banking? Yeah, so I assume at this point you've already been accepted into your school and you already know where you're going to be going. So I won't talk about that because otherwise, like if you're a senior in high school, the most important thing is like figuring out how to get into the best school possible. But if you already gotten in, then I think like your first year in college, you should be focusing on like joining the right organizations on campus. So a lot, depending on the school you go to, especially, but like a lot of schools have like these feeder clubs into investment banking where I mean they're very selective to get into usually, but like usually if you can get into those clubs, they have like they have you have a much higher chance of getting into banking because like a lot of the alumni from the school that got into banking in the first place were also previously in those clubs, and so they tend to help the people in those clubs the most. So that's one of the first things. Like I would start researching like what those clubs are. Okay, you're going to TCU, so I would start researching like what are like the best clubs at TCU for someone who wants to get into investment banking to join, right? So that's one thing. Definitely like, especially your first semester on campus. Other than that, then I would focus on like getting really good grades and also like starting to build up your resume by getting some relevant experience. Okay, like so doing like relevant internships because like typically by the time you have to apply for your junior summer internship sophomore year, like if that recruiting process starts like halfway through sophomore year, typically what we're seeing is that nowadays anyway, because it's getting so competitive, like the most competitive candidates nowadays typically will have like probably 3 relevant internships plus some relevant extracurriculars and clubs and stuff on their resume, right? Because that's and so like if you think about it, if you want 3 relevant internships, if you do one your second semester freshman year, then you do another one your freshman summer, and then you do another one your first semester sophomore year. That's 3 relevant internships right there. Like that's, but like that means you had to start getting these relevant internships as early as freshman year. That's why so many people nowadays like they're just caught off guard by how early things are happening, and they haven't had time to do all these things. They haven't even started thinking about investment banking. Like most people don't like become freshmen on campus, and the first thing they think about is not like, oh, how do I get into investment banking? A lot of them don't even know what investment banking is, right? So the fact that you're already thinking about this stuff right now as a high school senior, that gives you a leg up on other people, but only if you actually take action, right? So anyway, those are the things I would focus on, like building up your resume, internships, extracurriculars, and GPA. Okay, and then like eventually also you'll want to like start networking with bankers, but I don't think like I think it's too early to do that. Like right when you start freshman year, like people probably don't want to talk to you yet. Okay, so I got a finance internship last year. I'm currently getting set up with another one this summer. Yeah, that's great. So you're already on it and you're already doing stuff like that. So that's really good. Okay, so keep doing what you're doing, man. Seems like you're on the right track. What impacts the DCF more? A 1% increase in revenue or a 1% increase in free cash flow? It's going to be a 1% increase in free cash flow because you're discounting the free cash flow back to get to present value. And so like if you have a 1% increase in free cash flow, that entire 1% is getting discounted back. Versus if you have a 1% increase in revenue, to get from revenue to free cash flow, you still have a bunch of expenses in between cost of goods sold, operating expenses, CapEx, change of working capital that you have to like subtract out to get to free cash flow. So like that 1% you might end up with like, I don't know, 0.1% or 2% or whatever it may be. And so like, not the entire thing is going to flow through to your enterprise value, basically, if it's revenue. Okay. Okay. So I think I cleared through all the questions. I'm glad we got in one technical question at the very end there. Typically, we don't get any technical questions on these calls, but hopefully you guys found this to be helpful. Mahandi says, DM'd you. Great. Well, I'll DM you back after this when I have time to check my DMs. But yeah, again, for those of you who are like interested in potentially working with us or getting our help, whether it's with summer 2023 recruiting, or if you want to just like get a head start, maybe you're a freshman or even high school senior, or maybe you're late, you're a junior, senior, and you're just like trying to catch up. Like we've helped people across that entire spectrum. Okay. And like I said, we have an over 90% success rate historically. We offer a money back guarantee option. If we don't feel comfortable offering you a money back guarantee, we basically won't invite you into the program. We won't even let you work with us, even if you want to pay us. Okay. So like, if you're interested in that, a program that can basically virtually guarantee you a job in investment banking, then again, it's by application only. I would encourage you guys to go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated to ST. So wallstmastermind.com/apply and book a call with our team. We'll learn more about your situation, see if we can actually help. We'll be very honest with you. If we can help, happy to walk you through what that might look like. If we can't help, we'll tell you we can't help, and we'll just give you some advice instead. Okay. So hope this was helpful for you guys. I'll be back with another one of these same time next month, usually the first Tuesday of each month. Otherwise, look forward to hopefully meeting some of you instead of our program. And for the rest of you, best of luck with your investment banking recruiting process. And if you guys ever have any more questions, feel free to just reach out to me by DMing me. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to go. Otherwise, I also periodically check my Facebook Messenger and Instagram as well. All right. That'll be it, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.